Hello and welcome back. If this is the first video you're tuning into in this series or on our channel, and you're a real estate agent who has problems keeping in touch with their database, meaning either you have hundreds or thousands of leads that are simply collecting dust in your CRM, or you reach out to your database but not frequently enough, so when you do reach out, you often find out that those leads have already moved on with another real estate agent. If that's the case, this is the perfect video series for you. In this video series, we're talking about how to turn those leads and strangers into actual clients and commissions. In the first video, we covered what type of messaging you should be sending out in your drip campaigns to do that. In the second video, we covered how and when you should be sending that messaging out. And in this video, we're going to be covering the 5 stats that you need to make sure you monitor and track so that your campaigns are always producing results. Not only that, but you're getting those conversions earlier on in the process. My name is Mason Armbruster, and I'm the president and founder of Constant Closings, a real estate-specific marketing agency that helps our agents, teams, and brokerages across the United States add an average of 3 extra clients a month through our custom marketing strategies that are all paired with back-end filtration systems that qualify their leads for them. Now, in doing that for them, a large portion of what we do is nurturing those leads for them long-term to pull as much out of that sponge as possible, that sponge being their database. So with that being said, we've covered what to send, when and how to send it, and now we want to jump into how we track things and what we need to track to make sure we're getting the most conversions as possible and how we do it for our clients. So let's dive in. When it comes to tracking and monitoring your drip campaigns, there are 5 main stats that you want to make sure you know of and you're keeping track of so you know what you need to improve with your campaigns. And they are as follows: your delivery rates, your open rates, your click rates, your response rates, and your unsubscribe rates. Your delivery rates is the percentage of the amount of messages that you sent out that actually made it to someone's inbox. Your open rates are the percentage of the emails that were actually opened of the emails that you sent. Your click rates are the percentage of the number of emails that were delivered that had a click engagement, meaning if you had 100 emails that were sent and 98 were delivered, and 98 of those emails that were delivered, everybody clicked on, like they clicked on the link that you provided and you embedded in that email, or maybe you clicked or maybe you added a buyer or seller's guide and they clicked on that to download it, then that would mean that you had a 98% or 100% click rate, because of the delivered emails, 100% of the delivered emails actually had a click engagement within them. Your response rate is, as you would imagine, the percentage of the people that actually responded. So if you sent out 100 emails and you got 2 responses, you have a 2% response rate. And of course, your unsubscribe rate is the percentage of the amount of people that you sent emails out to that clicked the unsubscribe button to be removed from your drip campaigns. Now that we know what we need to track and what each one of those means, let's dive into the real estate lead generation averages when it comes to email marketing campaigns. So I'm going to pull it up on the screen here. So as you can see here on your screen, these are the real estate industry averages based on data that's been collected over years and years from the world's largest email marketing companies. So these are the benchmarks that we want to make sure we're achieving or coming close to. These are a good baseline for you. So as you're tracking the 5 data points we talked about earlier, prior to us jumping into an example in the next few minutes here, you'll know exactly what targets and baselines we're shooting for. So as you can see here, in online real estate lead generation email marketing campaigns, the average open rate is about 19%. So we want to make sure we're doing at least 19% or better. So we want that number to be 19% or higher. Our average click rate is 1.7%, meaning we want it to be 1.7% or higher. Your bounce rate is basically just the other side of the coin to your delivery rate. So I should explain what that means as well. Your bounce rate is simply the percentage of emails that did not get delivered. So when I say that, if your delivery rate was 98%, your bounce rate is 2%. Because if you send 100 emails out, 98 were delivered, 98% is your delivery rate, and 2% is the amount of emails, 2 emails, that didn't make it to the inboxes. So your bounce rate here, your averages, it's not important necessarily at this moment in time to know the difference between what they mean by soft bounce or a hard bounce, but you can simply add those numbers together and you get about 1% for an industry average. That means on average, you want 99% of the emails that you send out to people in your drip campaigns to actually be delivered to their inbox and not to get caught up in the spam folder. Now, I will say here, you have a little bit of wiggle room. The industry average is 1%. You always want to shoot for that, but you can go up to 2%. But that is the maximum you will ever want to go. Anything higher than a 2% undelivered rate or a 2% bounce rate, or on the other side of the coin, a 98% delivery rate or worse, is going to add you to spam watch lists. So your domain will be added on what's called a spam watch list or an IP blacklist, where your domain will be listed as spam. So when it comes to phone calls, if you know a spam call comes through and it's listed as a spam call on your phone, it's basically the same thing, except it does it with your email. And your future emails, and maybe even your normal emails that you send out to your clients, will no longer go through because your whole domain has been blacklisted. Now, there's a way around that, as we talked about in previous videos. The last video, we talked about how to get those messages to be delivered and why we want to use a subdomain so that we don't have these issues. Because when you first test out your new drip campaign, you may have a lot of messages that bounce above 2% because there's some things you may need to modify, or you may have put too many links in the email, which may trigger a spam watch list or a spam warning. So you want to watch the last video that we filmed so you know what to do in terms of a subdomain, so that when you're testing out your drip campaigns to start, you don't have to worry about these numbers being too high. And then once you monitor them, like we're going through in this video, you'll know what you need to tweak to be able to get those numbers back down. So when it comes to your bounce rate or your delivery rate, you want your delivery rate to be 98% or better, or you want your bounce rate on the other side of the coin, you want your bounce rate to be 2% or below. The unsubscribe rate industry average is about 0.2% or 0.3% if you want to round up. So that's our benchmark there. And your response rate average is anywhere from 5 to 10%. So, all right. So as you can see here on your screen, this is a true live example of a drip campaign that we're actually helping somebody out with and helping them to improve. So on your left, you can see all of the emails that we're sending out. They're not necessarily in a particular numerical order. They were at one time, but we've been rearranging the drip campaign so we can split test and get the most out of the campaign. More about that in a moment, but right now I want to talk about what you need to be looking at and how they compare to the industry average. So looking at this example right now, in the first email at the top of your screen labeled as email 10, you'll be able to notice that I circled in red both the delivery rate and the click rate, because as we look here and we know our industry averages and we think back to the numbers that we were just looking at on the last slide, our delivery rate needs to be 98% or better. Again, that would mean your bounce rate is 2% or below. So as you can see here, our delivery rate is only 95%. So that is lower than 98%, which means we got an issue there and we need to focus on that. Now, if your delivery rate is significantly low and your bounce rate is significantly high, because they go hand in hand with one another, as you can see here, your bounce rate is about double, almost triple the amount that we want it to be, which is the 2% max limit. What that most likely means is that there's either a spam marking on that email that you're sending out because there's a red flag that's being raised because the title, like the subject line of the email, is either very spammy or it's, let's say you have a body of the email and you posted, instead of posting valuable content and like one video link, and you posted many links in that email that could be considered a potential spam email because there may be like a phishing scam. A lot of times people do what are called phishing scams, where they send a fake link to your email inbox. You may have seen that before, in hopes that you click that link and then you put in your personal information and they steal your information. So knowing that there are a lot of people out there and scammers that do that, if you have an email with way too many links that you've provided in it, that could also be an indicator of why this was flagged and why a lot of your messages aren't going through. So just something to take a look at. If you notice all of your other messages look good in terms of delivery rate, as you can see here for the most part on our screen, and you have that one message that's not performing as well, that's most likely what it is. Now, if all of your delivery rates are low, then it most likely means your domain is unhealthy and you probably did not follow the guidelines that we gave in the last video. You probably want to go back, watch that other video that we filmed last about how and when to send send those messages to make sure they get to the inbox, and then make those changes and then come back to this video. So as you can see, we have the issue with delivery rate there. Now, if you look over on the right, our open rate looks good because our open rate is above the average 19% that the industry averages for real estate. Now, on the right, we can also see our click rate. Our click rate in this case is about 1%. And the average click rate is 1.7, industry average. So we're a little below that mark. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we improve that click rate as well. If your delivery rate looks good and your open rate looks good, but your click rates are low, it most likely means that your messaging in your emails is not actually speaking to the client, meaning they were interested enough to open the email after it was delivered because your title or your subject line of the email was catchy. But then once they open it up and they read the email, they weren't necessarily interested in what you had to offer or what you had to say. So that means it's most likely a messaging issue. Now, as you can see here, I've just circled some of the other messages within this campaign that also had issues. So as you can see, email 15, the second one down, also has a little bit low of a click rate. The delivery rate looks good. Bounce rate is fine. Open rate is fine. But our click rate is low, which means we need to switch up the messaging a little bit that they were previously using in this campaign of theirs. And then at the very bottom of the screen, the third message and the fourth one, email 14 and email 9, as you can see, all of these stats there look good. No questions, no concerns. But the last email, email 11 at the bottom of the screen, is just below where we want it to be. The deliver rate is just below 98%, which is our maximum, and the bounce rate is 2.15%, with, again, our maximum wanting to be 2%. So I covered these in yellow, and as well as the click rate. It's just below where we want to be at 1.7%. So you have an indicator there of needing to make a slight adjustment. Now, because they're so close to the industry averages, if you have something like this that's below, but just slightly below, it's most likely just a real minor tweak that you need to make. It's not so much a large delivery rate error or a large error in your messaging. Maybe just switch up the subject line of your email to get slightly more engagement. And again, make sure that if your delivery rate is just slightly low, that you are doing everything we mentioned in the last video. So this is a perfect example of what you wanted to do, what numbers you need to look at, and when these numbers are low, what that usually means, whether it's an issue with your domain, whether it's an issue with your subject line, or whether it's an issue with the actual content that you're displaying in your email. Now that we've taken a look at an example, hopefully you have a good idea of what you need to be tracking and when those numbers are above or below those industry averages, exactly what you need to be doing, especially if they're below, because that means there's room for improvement. Now, one of the last tips or tricks I want to give you here to get the most out of your drip campaigns, if you followed all of our guidelines in the first video, second video, and you're following and keeping track of the 5 stats we talked about earlier on in this video, you're going to be set up for success. Now, that will help you turn those strangers into clients and commissions, but the last thing we want to do is use this last trick to make sure that we're getting those clients and conversions earlier on in our drip campaigns. So when you're monitoring these 5 important stats that we've been covering in this video, you want to take a look at your drip campaigns after you actually have a good data set. Meaning, if you've had enough people that have actually been sent out this drip campaign and enough people have received those messages, meaning upwards of 50 plus people have already received these drip campaigns and received these emails, for you to see the data reflected, you have a good indicator of what your delivery rates are, your open rate, click rate, response rate, all the good stuff that we referred to earlier. And this last hack that you want to use is after you have that data set, take a look at all those emails that you're sending out, just like we did in that prior example, and reorder your campaign based on the best performers. A lot of people don't think this. They just simply want to make sure they tweak their messages. So for instance, to use the example earlier, there was 4 or 5 messages on the screen. And that 4th message maybe was the one that wasn't performing as well, or the 5th message. And if that 4th or 5th message was the one that was not performing as well, the agents will often go in, tweak what they need to based on the suggestions I just gave a moment ago, but then they'll just leave it in the same place it was at in the drip sequence. The problem is you may have some powerhouses later on, and you notice when you first put a campaign together, let's just use the example of having a drip campaign that was only 5 emails long. Now, it should be much longer than that based on the last video that we filmed and we talked about, but let's just use it for example. If you have 5 emails being sent out and you find out after looking at your stats and sending those 5 email drip sequences out to everyone, let's say you send 100 emails and you find out that the 5th email, after looking at your stats, has the highest delivery rate, the highest open rate, the highest click rate, then that means you don't want that to be your 5th message because your conversions are coming later on and you don't want to have to wait for those. Take that 5th message in your powerhouse with the best stats and move it so it's now your first email in the sequence, so you're getting more conversions earlier on. Again, something that seems very straightforward but often overlooked by a lot of agents. Take a look at your data, see which email campaign or email messages are performing the best, and stack up your best performers at the beginning. And then as your weaker performers, you can constantly split test, but you can have them later on in the sequence. This will allow you not only to turn those strangers into clients and commissions, but it will allow you to do that much faster. Now, if you found this video and series helpful and you're one of the agents that I was referring to earlier that struggles to keep in touch with their database, and your database is often collecting dust or moving on with other real estate agents, but you simply don't have the time or want to take the time necessary to go through all the steps that we talked about in this series, then feel free to click the link in the description below to book a call with our team. It never hurts to find out to see if we'd be a good fit for one another. We can take care of all this drip sequence stuff for you. Not only that, but we may be able to provide you with a consistent flow of appointments with leads that meet lead qualification factors that you choose and get you to the point like our other clients where they're adding an average of 3 extra clients a month. If you're interested in doing that and you want somebody to take care of all of this stuff for you, simply click that button below, book a call with our team, and we look forward to speaking. And as always, thank you for watching.